Today, immigrants are on the march. From the big cities to the small towns, immigrants are publicly demanding their right to respect, dignity, and citizenship in America.
Immigrant communities are denouncing the racist attacks coming out of Congress, the anti-immigrant hysteria in general, and saying we are proud of who we are and what we bring to this country.
The bill from the House of Representatives called them criminals.
It's no coincidence that the attacks against immigrants right now are attacks against communities of color.
An attack on a person's dignity.
This is the same structural racism that we see within our government policies that affected us in slavery, that affect us now when it comes to housing, healthcare, and education.
Word is spreading out that this is civil rights for a sector of people who need it.
Immigrant rights is about enfranchisement and about equal rights, equal protection, all central concerns of our racial justice movement.
But as the debate rages on the streets and in the halls of Congress, a critical question remains unanswered. How does the current immigration discussion fit into the history of race and racism in America? The forced migrations of Africans to the U.S. in the 1400s to work under a brutal regime of slavery set the standard for pushing people into the U.S. economy while pulling away their civil and political rights. With the Chinese Exclusion Act, another side of U.S. immigration policy materialized: the systematic blocking of national groups justified largely by racism and xenophobia.
I want to welcome you as the Vice Mayor to City Hall. This is your City Hall. With my great-grandfather and grandfather, we're building the levees in Sacramento, we're building the mines, we're building and finishing the railroad. When we finished our work, they wanted to deport all of the Chinese.
The infamously abusive Bracero program of 1942, which bears a strikingly resemblance to some current congressional proposals, brought millions of Mexican workers into the economy to fill jobs during World War II. But only 13 years later, in 1954, immigration officials brutally deported nearly 1 million Mexicans in America. The official name of the federal mission? Operation Wetback. In 2006, federal legislation from conservative Senator James Sensenbrenner of Wisconsin strokes racist animosity to push a plan to expand the criminalization of immigrants and construct a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Africans, Asians, and Latinos demonstrate in record numbers. Forces that push people of color into the U.S. have also shaped their fates after they arrive. Whether a descendant of slaves, a refugee from Somalia, or an undocumented worker from Mexico, the facts show that all people of color, regardless of national origin, face a disproportionate burden of low-wage jobs, failing schools, and disparities in health.
We are a political force.
Immigrant communities, regardless of their immigration status, are politicized, are organized, and have political power.
This power at the base, we can really fight for something different and actually fight for what we really want at the policymaking level, not what we think we can get.
And communities of color in general must work together to fight it collectively.
And when we're crafting these laws, that we put race up front, that we think about how it may create disparities and work to prevent it from the beginning.
Immigrant rights is at the very heart of racial justice.
Immigrant population, their families into subgroups, as some compromises have been proposed in the Senate, are not enough to resolve the need to have everyone regularize and stabilize their status here in the country fully legally.
Human rights, the right for people once here to find work, to live in dignified housing, to have access to good health care and good education.
Movement is that we do win comprehensive reform that includes legalization and includes worker protections, as well as a stop to this out-of-control enforcement trend of detentions and deportation. We continue to keep expanding and making links between migrant rights here in the U.S. as well as internationally, and make connections with our movement here to the Global South, because this issue really does transcend citizenship or U.S. borders. And
whether we're displaced from the southern Gulf Coast from Katrina, or displaced from various areas in Latin America and Africa, the policies of the U.S. government has impacted us all, people of color, very negatively. And so this is a moment in time where we can unite and begin to talk about the structural racism in government and make demands of what we really want, and be proactive about race for once in this country. There's a great hope out there, and I think this is time to seize that opportunity.